Hello and welcome to Complementary Colors. I am here today with a special guest, Crystal Worl, to continue our discussions on the impact of the importance of public art. I've personally had the pleasure of working with Crystal on a public art piece that's integrated into guardrails at the Juneau airport, which is your hometown, right?
Yep.
I think that was one of my, honestly, it's not one, it is my favorite art installation that I have ever done in my career because it's so beautiful, so impactful, and I know how challenging it was.
Yeah.
Like those guardrails in themselves are hard to detail, so to make art to go inside of them is above and beyond the normal challenge that we have day to day with the sizing and the spacers and how it's attached and the material, which is really, really fun to work with you to get that really big impact piece. We have a sister podcast that can dive in deeper into a lot of things that you had specified about like why you draw and where you're coming from and a lot of your history. But in the public art realm, what I'm realizing as a born and raised Alaskan, that I have a lot to learn about Alaskans. And I would love to know your heritage, if you could let us know, because I know that you have a certain house and a clan. If you could explain that a little bit to us.
Yeah, I can start by introducing myself. Kakia yilkat duasak, yech ayachat lukahadi nachatsiti, afnadaka hidi yechit. So what I said was my Tlingit name is Kakia. English name is Crystal Worl. I'm Tlingit from the Raven Sockeye clan and from the Raven house from the Jilkatquan, which is our Klukwan area. And I live in Juneau, and I'm also Athabascan on my mother's side.
That's awesome. So it's really cool to always hear like the native language explain where you are and where you're from, right? Not just like, I'm from Juneau.
That's the short version.
That's the short version.
That's like me saying, hi, I'm Crystal.
Yeah. That is awesome.
I had a friend help me write down my introduction. Like it just goes back, the longer it is, it goes back further into your ancestry. It's basically going back into your family history, where they're from. And it's really fascinating because when you introduce yourself to someone, you learn your relationship with them just by knowing what clan they are. Yeah. And I know how, like, I'll know how I need to address you or behave or treat you based on our clan's history, our family's history. And if we share, how closely are we related?
That is so cool. And you had mentioned previously that there was always a balance or the opposite.
Yeah, taking care of your opposites.
And is there an opposite then clan in the house or an opposite house? How does that?
So specifically for Tlingit, we have two moities. There's Raven and Eagle, and they're considered opposite. And under Raven and Eagle, there are subclans. And those are, when I say I'm from the Tlukahadi clan, I'm from the Sockeye Salmon clan.
That is so awesome.
So I'm Raven Modi, Salmon Sockeye clan from the Raven house.
And so, okay, personal question. How far back do you know then your lineage? Like how long would your longest intro be?
When I wrote it down one time, I had help writing it down. In Tlingit, it was 2 pages long.
Oh my gosh, how cool is that? I just say that because there's so many people like myself who are like dying to know my ancestry and, taking DNA tests to figure out where my lineage is coming from. And you guys you keep it so documented and personal. I absolutely love how you cherish your history and document it in all of the stories that you own. So I think that plays it has a big influence in how we can approach public art in educating our Alaskan friends on heritage and all of the ways that the lineage can weave in and out of stories and how the story belongs to your clan or it belongs to this clan and I'm sharing it with you. I think that's really important to understand. Yeah. It's not just a story in the aspect that the general public understands a story, that is something that belongs to you and your family, and you are choosing to share it, which is so cool.
I do my best, and I think every Native person has an auntie that can
auntie.
I'm like, auntie or mom, how am I related to this person?
Yes, there's always someone that can fact check
what
you.
was that? How is this clan related to our clan? Like, I have a library in my relatives' brains that I can like tap into.
That's really cool. The network. Yeah. Well, then I'll ask you my first question. That's not understanding the heritage lineage, but I wanted to know what public art really means to you, and specifically in our Alaska culture. How do you see it fit into your goals in life and what your vision is for sharing your stories?
Yeah, I think public art is really important for storytellers. And I come from a lineage of storytelling. It's another way of transporting knowledge to the next generation of people in a community. It's a way of passing on our values, our way of life, and our knowledge to the next generation. But it can also be a significant way of addressing current issues and modern day stories and ways of telling those stories. So it's really empowering to put that tool into someone's hand. That person becomes this platform for telling a story for wherever they come from. And the great thing about doing it in Alaska is Alaskans are really, really proud to be Alaskan.
We are so proud.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're the most proud state. Like,
I think we are. Sorry, Texas. Totally agree. And I love that you had mentioned previously that it's a connection to the future, but it brings the past along. So it's almost like you're blending your past, present, and future all together in one moment. And I think that is a challenge. So how do you make that happen? Like, what in your brain is like, I need to tell this story, and this is the medium I'm going to use, and this is how I think I'm going to execute it. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I always think who I come from and who are my ancestors and what did they do? They were so innovative to not just know who they were and where they were from and how to live, where they survive the way they did. They also adapted and found cool new tools in their time and materials and adapted it to their needs and ways. And why, like, I can do the same.
Yeah.
I can continue the things that I know and pass and create those stories and retell them and recreate them. But I think it's just the coolest thing I was born in this time because there's laser cutting, there's 3D printing,
Procreate on the iPads.
There's Adobe Illustrator, there's glass blowing, and I can fly on an airplane and do an artist residency in Mexico or Italy or
you sound like a dream. Wake me up.
I can do it. And we're kind of in this really, really sweet era where it's a cool trend to give the microphone to an indigenous person.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I was born at the right time. Everyone's like, I wish I was born in the 70s or like in this era. And I'm like, I'm so glad I was born right here, right now. Like,
this is my era.
I'm living my best life now. And
oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
There's this quote that always sticks in my head. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I love that.
I don't know who said the quote, but
well, whoever said that,
yeah,
we love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was recently in New York in March, and I had not had the privilege of seeing your livery on Alaska Airlines yet until I was in New York. And we were getting in an Uber, and we were like driving away, and I was like, there it is. Like, it was like not only like all of a sudden my body was full of like pride and excitement, but I was just so proud. Like, I'm in New York City and I'm seeing something that originated in the Southeast.
That is so cool.
It's
I have
like
people
the
tagging
small
me.
world.
It's like been to Puerto Rico, all over Mexico. It's going everywhere. And so to hear that it's been in New York is...
I haven't seen it in Alaska, but
so
I've
cool.
seen it in New York. So I thought that was really cool. And that was in March.
We have the next decade to see it in Alaska. So
I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And your upcoming public art in the Seattle airport, I'm also really excited to hear how that develops. So we'll have to have another like in-depth one on, because that one's just going to blow everybody's mind. But I'd love to ask you, when you're creating public art, you're typically when I think public art, you're creating something probably larger than something that would be framed.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking on a scale that is more than a paper and more than what maybe a room could even handle. So how, like these big murals and the livery, like how do you take your form line and artistic interpretations that you have as an artist to what you're doing and put it on a scale that can make that big impact when seen from afar?
I think a very important tool is visualizing it. And what my mentor, Robert Davidson, really taught me, he said, visualize yourself doing it and having already done it. And don't get caught up in the what ifs. And so I think that's been a really amazing tool for me to use. And I think I've already had that integrated in me before I started working with him. And he just really hammered the nail in when I studied with him. And so now when I am thinking about something big, I like grew up being inspired by all of these amazing artists, and I'm still being blown away by artists and what they do. And I, formerly came from this mentality of like, oh, maybe I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And I've defeated that and come to a point where I'm like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can do it. I can really, really do it if I really, really want to.
So you're almost like, first I have to make and find that confidence.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it'll click no matter what.
You're convincing yourself like, I can do it and I will do it. And here's how I envision myself doing it. And when I see, for like today earlier, I met with someone that wants me to paint a mural downtown Anchorage. Mm-hmm. And I met with them and I looked at the wall and I just visualized all the infinite possibilities of the color, the shapes, the size, the scale, all the different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And so really what I need help with is narrowing down options. Because there's too many now.
Oh man, I can totally relate in our space too of like having multiple solutions to one problem, but which one's the right solution? Not necessarily best.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a right fit for everybody because everyone's going to interpret things differently, interact with things differently. Yeah. It's going to share a different story and a different message. So it's interesting to know.
And I have to ask myself, will I have fun doing it?
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah. Because I've done too many things where I'm like, I am doing this because I need to pay bills. And I'm like, I can have fun doing things that I enjoy and they can support my career and doing more of it.
Well, good. I'm glad that you have that mentality because...
Yeah. I had to make that switch though, because there's this switch you have to think about as an artist. Like, do you get stuck in the groove of making something because it makes your bills paid or it makes your living? Or are you making something because you're creative and you have the itch to create it and you find a way to make it and you find a way to like...
make it happen.
Be like, ooh, give me money. I'll make this.
Please.
I think I spend like maybe so much time. I was telling someone, I think I apply to like between 10 and 20 grants a year.
10 and 20 grants.
And I don't like writing. I don't like talking about myself and telling people, you should give me money and I'm great because of this. Most artists don't really like to do that, but we have to do it for RFPs, for grants and all these things. And it's not fun, but I spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're trying to put, I'll call it like your almost your life purpose into justification for something.
Yeah.
Like, you're the right fit for multiple reasons that don't matter at all on paper.
I want them to see instead of read. I want them to be like, Because I'll write, I feel like I'm a cave woman when I'm writing. Brr, you, money, me.
Here's my bullet points.
Or like, if you could just look at my vision as a sketch or an imagery, or if I could just illustrate for you what I'm thinking and feeling and transport it to you, like maybe you would get the feeling more of than reading,
I totally agree. I'll write proposals and all I want to do is draw an image of what I mean. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. Like connect these points together and get this. Mm-hmm. I don't need to write about it.
Yeah. They're like, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? And like, I don't know. I'm not good at math, but I have to figure this out. It's going to take me time, but.
And how do you put a number to it? Is it something where you're like, okay, it's going to probably take me this many hours and it might take me a lift, right? You're going to have to rent lifts to get up on these high areas for murals.
I learned by doing.
Yeah.
So former experiences have taught me, I did not get paid for that. And I'm like, next time I'm going to get paid for this. And then I do it again. Then I'm like, I barely got paid for that. Okay, next time I'm going to get paid enough.
That's really funny. I think we can all relate as creatives that it's hard to put words to what we do, and definitely a monetary value to it because it's so fluid and it will change on every single project because it should. Not one thing is meant to have the other result. So I love that it's still a challenge for everybody, even though it's hard to put that price tag on it correctly. Yeah. So we're not all different in that matter. You had also said previously that you put energy into things that you create. And I love that saying because when you're creating something, I'll even say the mural that's 7th and G on the building that I think Rim Architects and Salt owns. That mural is a story that not only captivates you when you're driving, you're walking, or you're riding the escalator in the building next door. So you're taking movement and moments from people that are doing drastically different things in their day-to-day world, but giving them this like breath of energy to get them inspired about something. Is that something that like you think about and think through of like how people are going to be interacting with my art?
I suppose so. Because I experienced that from other people's art. I see murals that really move me or big pieces of art that an artist did. It moves me in a way that I'm like, I need to hustle faster and harder. But maybe that's, other people obviously maybe don't feel the same thing, but I've heard that my large artwork does move people in a way.
It does. And I love personally from doing all three, drive, walk, and be in the building next door. When you're next door and you're on ground level, your perspective is quite different because I guess it's more of a human perspective because you're on the ground. But when you're on level 2 and 3, you have this different perspective on the artwork than you would anticipate because you're looking at it almost at eye level, quote unquote, or above it. And it has different stories to tell almost within that angle because you're looking at it completely differently.
It's a different experience.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah, that's why I love monumental art because the experience of being immersed in it or being at its foot and looking up to it is such a experience in itself versus seeing it on a computer on your phone. Like when I see the Khatkwani airplane, you said you went.
I know I did.
I do the same thing too. When I see it, I'm like, it takes my breath away because of the scale of it. When you see it in person, it's so significantly different than on your phone. It's so different.
Yeah, or even a photograph, because I know some of the people in the room that are watching us right now got to see the unveiling of it. It took tons of pictures, so I knew what it looked like in photography and magazines, but in person, man, it's like a totally different vibe. And you're like, holy crap, this is so cool. So I love that you get to experience that too as the artist creating something that you're putting into the world and sharing with people. Also, I'd love to ask you about what you'd like people to learn about what you do. I know in a previous conversation that you had mentioned that you get to work with other people's branding guides, but you also really have your own branding guide of your indigenous language and your people and your history and your lineage. So I guess I would ask you how you blend your clients' branding guidelines with your indigenous platform that you have with your own form line, for example, and how you had previously mentioned about the ABCs and how you have a process and a way of creating something that has been taught a proper way of doing it. And how do you blend that with someone else's branding guidelines?
Yeah, this is an interesting part of my job that I didn't expect when I started to take on clients designing, whether it's a collection or an apparel brand or pattern making or design, and fitting within their brand, but also maybe it's their first time. It's very often, it's my client's first time working with an indigenous designer. And so I've really tried to create this platform. And when I say platform, I have clients that come in and they ask all these questions and they have these visions and describe it for me, what they want from me. And I basically have to lay it down. This is who I am. First of all, you need to know who I am, where I come from, and this is why I am this way. And this is how I create. And these are parts of where this design comes from. So this is how it works. And this is how you can integrate with me and collaborate with me. I really ask them to collaborate with me. And I can always tell who's worked with artists before or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very easy. Okay. And it's so nice when I get a client that's like worked with many artists. I'm like, oh, you are so nice. And I didn't expect this. I spend a lot of time explaining and teaching and setting up a client of how things work. And so I've been working with my stepmom, Dawn Dinwoody, who manages our family shop Trickster company. And she really is great at writing and being very like, this is how it is. You need this, make sure you get paid this and this and this. So she's like very firm and I'm, like kind of like la la la. So it helps to have her there being, we need to have this documented. We need to have all these bullet points written down and they need to know and understand and agree in verbal writing that they understand this. And so I've been replicating that and really trying to elevate. When you work with an indigenous person, this is how it is. And so I hope it is a trend that I'm not the first and I'm not the last.
I agree. I think it's
when
really
they hire
important.
another indigenous artist, they know to respect their value, their design, and not just be like, oh, I just want a soaring eagle or a dream catcher and here's $5. And so hoping it does a favor to like all artists, but as an indigenous artist, there are like multiple challenges that, the world doesn't fully understand what it means to hand the microphone to an indigenous person. Because our story has been told not by us for so long now that it's unfamiliar and uncomfortable and scary territory, but it's actually really fun and exciting, and it's a collab. It's the beginning of something that's really exciting. That
is really exciting.
The cool part.
Especially coming from someone, again, like I said, born and raised here, that is so excited to learn about those that have come here first. It's one of those, I don't know if I can put a word to it that's closer to just feeling lost in my own heritage, because my actual heritage is not even on this continent. And it's a complete disconnect for me, but knowing that my immediate location, my immediate family has a huge impact. And so this land that I'm on, why can't I learn about that and belong to this?
Yeah, exactly.
And so how can I go about doing that and elevate my education and where I could go to learn? So do you have any suggestions for those listening of those that might have the same passion to learn about their land, where they could go and any resources and how they could figure that out?
I think it's really good to be curious and to want to know. And we're all here now on this land, and nobody's going anywhere. And so we all need to learn to coexist, and why not do it in the many beautiful ways that there are to do it. If people want to support Indigenous artists, shop from an Indigenous designer. It's as simple as that. And as long as the designer has sold it to you and is Indigenous, it's okay that you wear it, you rep it, and be proud that you did and that you are an ally and a supporter and a believer. And that you can, because I get a lot of people that ask, oh, I really love your art, but I'm not Indigenous and I really want to wear your leggings or your shirt. And they're afraid. And I think we need to get over that fear and be like, this is a healthy way of doing it. You can rep my designs, and you so should, with pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
And go forward with it and share that story. I think people in Anchorage, if they're curious to learn more, a really awesome place to learn more about the land here, Indigenous people here, and our history is the Anchorage Museum. They're fantastic.
We have a really great exhibit on learning everything, even the materials that are used to have and not just like what you would wear to protect yourself from the elements, but what you wear in ceremonies. Like you had mentioned previously, I had to learn how to make regalia from an early age, and how all of these materials and natural forms you use to create things, not just for necessity, but to share your culture, your story, and your lineage. Yeah. And they also show a lot of modern day artists, local and Indigenous, doing cool things. Like right now there's the Northern Borders, and it's both Alaskans and Indigenous Alaskan artists with their art on skateboards and snowboards. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah. And then there's also the Alaska Native Heritage Center is also fantastic if you want a more immersive experience of walking into traditional huts and houses and longhouses, and walking through a day in the life of how we create things like a fish skin basket or a pair of mukluks. And then there's also, they have Indigenous people that work there that teach classes or workshops. Like you can get hands-on experience of how to do the the Native games.
Oh yes, yeah. That's the toe. What is that one?
The high kick.
High kick.
Yeah, they have demonstrations, and they have a wide variety of young people from different backgrounds who can introduce themselves in their language and translate what it means, and really make anyone who's visiting feel welcome on this land. And be an ally, like you had said, which is starts with education and an open mind. So, well, Crystal, I can't tell you how excited. I mean, I have to say that before I got to meet you for the Juneau Airport project, I already was fangirling on you because I love Trickster. And I had your earrings, I had your leggings, I have all that stuff. So I can't tell you how excited I am to have talked to you today about this. And I hope that we get to follow you and your journey and all of the other public art you get to do, and see more airplanes in Mexico City and all around the world. So thank you for taking your time today. Absolutely. It's so nice to see you again and engage with you face to face.
Yes.
It's been a lot of emails.
I know, and a whole pandemic and everything in the
pandemic and many crazy hectic things. Yes. It's nice to have someone that has seen like the chaos of making a public art piece come together
from an RFP.
I'm like, I have so many questions.
Yeah, no, it's been a fun process, and I think that even interacting with you and that RFP taught me a lot of how to interact with other artists and future RFPs after that.
It's taught me how to interact as an artist with
how the built environment can hold the art seismically safe and all that. Yeah, it's blending two worlds together to make a huge impact on the general public in our community. And I love that we can use what's necessary to be safe as a way to tell a story of public art. And I love that that is the absolute perfect blend of public art to me, is useful and impactful. So thank you for helping me do that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Complementary Colors is a production of MCG Explore Design, an architecture and interior design firm located in beautiful Anchorage, Alaska. If you'd like to hear more future episodes, be sure to subscribe to Complementary Colors wherever you find podcasts.